Yusufzai. So Mr. Danish Tariq is here already. Can you turn on your camera, please? Also, Mr. Hassan, can turn on your camera, please. Yeah, welcome, welcome. You two are from Pakistan, and
Yeah,
yeah. So Mr. Danish Tariq is a security engineer by profession and security researcher by passion. So he has been working in cybersecurity for over 8 years, and it all started out with a curiosity to break things and look deep down into those things, physical and virtual, back in his teenage. That's very interesting. It's also involved on many bug bounty programs. He spoke at many conferences also, and he's also an expert, certified expert. That's what I'm saying. Your presentation is very huge. So I'll let you also introduce yourself later. So Mr. Hassan Khan also is a security researcher, OSCP certified and a Black Hat speaker. So he's a highly experienced security researcher with a proven track record of internet-wide scanning and penetration testing. So he has also been awarded by many institutions. Like he was in 2017 Google Hall of Fame, Google Security Hall of Fame, Twitter Security Hall of Fame, and Microsoft Security Hall of Fame. So huge. You two are just impressive. So without wasting time, I will let you also introduce yourselves, and you can share your screen to go on with your presentation. Thanks again for being part of EOCON 2023. We are very proud to have you here. You have the floor. Oh, wait a minute, please. A minute, please. Um, okay, you can go on, please.
uh, hello guys. I'm Danish, and today's presentation is on supply chain attacks and our research on some supply chain attack vectors. I'm Danish, and as you know, host introduced it very uh, generously that yeah, I'm a security researcher, HITB trainer, and I have been a speaker at Black Hat, ThreatCon, DevSecCon, and conferences like these. I have been a moderator at Avast conferences and rewarded and acknowledged by companies like Apple, Nokia, Microsoft, and a lot of those for finding vulnerabilities. And yeah, that's about me. And Hassan, can you please introduce yourself? Then we can start the presentation.
Yeah, sure. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for the introduction as well. Basically, I'm a security researcher. I am actually have been speaking recently about supply chain attacks on Black Hat, the SASCon, ThreatCon as well. As you mentioned, I'm acknowledged by Google, Microsoft, and other 200 plus companies as well. I'm currently traveling around the world, and I love to perform security research at scale. So yeah, that's a very precise introduction. And over to you, Danish. Let's get into the supply chain attacks. Let's go.
Yeah. So first of all, there's a little bit of a disclaimer that nothing in this research or the talk is malicious, illegal, or done in any unethical way. And we expect same from everyone who is listening to this to not reproduce anything in any unethical way, and it is only for educational and research purposes. Okay. So first of all, as the title says, supply chain attacks. So what is supply chain in the traditional terminologies? Traditionally, supply chain means that involvement of different things uh, in the process of making a final product or to reach that final product to the final consumer. You know, it could involve people, entities, information, resources, activities in the manufacturing units and stuff like that to make that product in the hands of the final consumer. Traditionally and generally, supply chain means this, but obviously we would be talking about software supply chain. But to give you an idea and give you a context of how supply chain works, this was important. Okay, so this is a Middle Eastern delicacy. Probably some of you have tasted it, and it's really good. So let's think about it. When you look at it, it's not only made by a chef or a cook. It involves a lot of other stuff. It involves dough. It involves butter. It involves honey. It involves pistachio. It involves cheese and stuff like that, right? So what if any of those objects or the building units get bad, expired, or anything like that? The final consumer, the person who would be eating it, would get affected. So it's not about the only one entity or the person who is making it, or only one raw material. It could include a lot of stuff, and if any one of those stuff could go bad, a final consumer would be affected. This is for the context when we go to the software supply chain. It's the context of the traditional supply chain. Okay. So here's an example of a car manufacturing unit. That car is not only made in one manufacturing unit. The different parts of the car are imported from different manufacturing units. For example, windshield or the screen could be developing, manufacturing in another unit, and paint would be manufacturing in another unit and stuff like that. So then the car would be assembled in one manufacturing unit. So it's not about only one manufacturing unit from where car would be getting assembled. It's about different manufacturing units, different factories from where the car parts are being outsourced. So yeah. So let's talk about software supply chain. Similarly, in software supply chain means anything that goes into the code base until it is made to the production or to the final consumer, like in the traditional example. And it could include binaries, third-party codes, libraries, dependencies, and other components that are used to prevent the reinventing of the wheel. Eh, you know, because no one wants to reinvent the wheel, so we use the code from the third party individuals to make our code better or to make it efficient. So software supply chain works like this. There's a developer who makes a code, and there is an involvement of dependency into it. And we would be focusing on this part of the software development lifecycle. Okay. And there's a very famous proverb that chain is only strong as its weakest link. It would be relevant in this presentation. This is a little bit of a meme from XKCD. Okay. So today's talk and research is more focused on the security issues that are revolving around this part of the software development lifecycle, dependencies or third-party libraries and components and stuff like that. Okay. So what are the attack vectors that could affect this part or supply chain of the software or the software supply chain? What attack vectors could affect the software supply chain? Obviously, first of all, it could be vulnerabilities. Any vulnerability that could be present in a third-party code, third-party library, would be affecting the main application or the main code. Like some of you guys have heard about Log4Shell, very famous in the past year. Log4Shell was the vulnerability that was present in a third-party library, and it was affecting a lot of main applications. If we talk about typo squatting is basically a very non-technical thing, but let's say developer is importing a library, and it's something like this, for example, and he makes a typo. He forget the extra A. He forgets the extra dash. There's a typo by the developer, or there's a broken keystroke on the keyboard. So there would be a wrong library that would get imported, and attacker could actually take benefit of that and make the fake libraries with the similar names, but with the little bit of typos, with maybe an extra L, with maybe without the dash, maybe without extra Y. So if there is a typo, the wrong dependency would get downloaded, a wrong dependency would get imported by the developer, and that dependency could include malicious code. That dependency could include backdoor, reverse shell, and same for the vulnerabilities. If you download a vulnerable package into your code, into your application, into your software development lifecycle, you are getting affected. You are going to get that vulnerability in your software, right? So Log4Shell was that example. And then we talk about repository jacking, repo jacking. If you change your repository name, an actual person claims that, and there was actually a libraries on that repository name, then obviously there could be some you could say there could be confusion, and people would start downloading uh, packages from the fake repositories. Repo jacking is one of the examples. Today's focus would be on account takeover. So dependencies stay on the software registries. Software registries are basically places or websites where third-party libraries or packages live on, from where you can download, from where you can call. So there are software registries like npm, Node Package Manager for JavaScript and stuff like that. And there are accounts of the maintainers on those type of platforms. So there is an example of account takeover. What if the maintainer's account get takeover and dependency could go bad? We would be going deep into this attack vector, account takeover, in the further slides and further research. And then there is dependency confusion. Microsoft, Uber, and Tesla were affected by the dependency confusion vulnerability in the past years. These are some of the example of attack vectors in supply chain attacks. Some recent attacks which happened because of supply chain attacks were SS. SS 500,000 systems were affected because of the supply chain. And then we have Log4Shell. All of these companies, Apple, Twitter, Microsoft, Cloudflare, Amazon, Tesla, etc., etc., all of those were affected by Log4Shell in one way or another, when there was a hype of Log4Shell in the past year. So it was also an example of supply chain attacks. So this is to show you significance of why this is important and why we are talking and you are listening to this talk today. Okay, let's talk about NPM. What is NPM? NPM is actually a Node Package Manager. Node Package Manager is the software registry, as we talked earlier on. It's the world's largest software registry because it hosts the packages of JavaScript, Node.js, and JavaScript is the most commonly used language for the last 9 years. So naturally, NPM, Node Package Manager, is the world's largest software registry. Software registry is a place where dependency live, where you download the third-party codes to prevent reinventing the wheel. Okay, so moving forward. This is the example of a package from NPM. NPM means Node Package Manager. Express. There are 31 dependencies for Express, which means that Express as a package is dependent on other 31 dependencies, other 31 packages, and 65,000 dependents, which means 65,000 packages are depending on Express. So 65,000 are dependent on Express, and Express is dependent on 31 dependencies. So if you are using Express as a package or as a dependency, you are naturally depending on 31 dependencies. Okay. Okay. So these screenshots are from last year when we conducted the research. At that time, total packages that were living on Node Package Manager were 2.1 million at that time. And these were the download numbers that were happening at that time. I'm not sure how to even pronounce this big of a numbers. This to just show you a impact of packages using malicious packages. So 46 something were the downloads in 1 week, and these were the number downloaded in the 1 month, and 2.1 million packages were there on the NPM at that time when we conducted that research, when that attack vector was happening. Okay. Okay. This is a video to just show you the web of a chain of different dependencies. Taking an example of Express. Express, this is how supply chain looks like. This is how web chain looks like. Sorry, this. See, Express is single-handedly depending on other packages, and those other packages would be depending on other packages, and so on and so on. And if you are depending on Express, that's how the supply chain works. Okay. Okay. So talking about NPM, non-package manager. What if, as I mentioned earlier, there are maintainers on non-package manager or NPM that maintains the packages, that develops the packages, that push out updates to the packages. Okay. What if the account of those maintainers get hacked? This is a question to think about right now. What if the accounts of those maintainers get hacked, which are maintaining the packages like Express or any other packages? There are actually two common possibilities that we could think of. What if the email addresses are takeoverable of those maintainers? And what if their passwords are leaked in some breach? We would be talking about it in later slides. Okay. So as mentioned earlier, package is maintained by maintainers, and those maintainers could make changes, push out updates, and maintainer account is linked with an email address, obviously. What if the domain of that email address is expired? This domain, let's think about it. What if the domain of the email address of the maintainer of the package gets expired? No problem. I would be showing you a graphical representation to make more sense out of it, Okay, so the last year, security researcher took over a domain or hacked a domain, took over a domain, actually expired domain, and then took over a package which was like downloaded 6 million had 6 million downloads a week. That's the frequency of using that package, 6 million downloads a week. And the domain of the maintainer of that library was expired, and he claimed that domain, and he was able to potentially able to update the library, and it was just for ethical purposes, just to make a point by that researcher. Okay, so let's actually visualize the thing that I just mentioned. Let's take an example of package on which 36,000 other packages are dependent. Okay, let's take an example of this package. Okay, obviously package is linked to a software registry account like NPM, and that account is linked to an email address. That email address is linked to a maintainer. Obviously, that email address is of maintainer, right? And that email address does have a domain. For example, danish.com, for example. Okay, so what if that domain get expired of the email address, right? This attacker could just claim this expired domain, and eventually he would have access to that mailbox. Eventually he would have access to the software registry account. Eventually he would have access to the package. Okay, so he would be just buying that domain and then creating a mailbox box out of it, a similar mailbox. For example, if I was the maintainer, I had info@danish.com, right? And it got expired. Attacker could just simply claim info@danish.com and use the password reset functionality of NPM, and then can push out malicious updates on the NPM registry. So there was no such defensive strategy against this attack or this attack vector last year, and we were able to talk to the register, the same blog, the same one that the security researcher recently collected and had a blog on how to prevent this manually, how to do this manually. So there was a honorable mention on that blog. You can see here. Manually, it's very simple, but it's not efficient and not recommended. Manually, you can list down all your packages, and obviously it is also pre-organized in your code bases like log JSON files, which includes all of your packages that you are using, and then query each package for the below command, which is npm view package name here and maintainers.email. You can run this command having npm installed on your device. You can just run this command in your CLI for every package and then you would get the maintainer name, maintainer emails of every package. And then you can just simply take out the domains from those email addresses, and then you could run whois on all of those domains to look what of the email addresses domains are expired of the packages that you are using. Obviously, it is not recommended. It is very inefficient. But then there is an automated way. Automated way is that there could be some script that could be in your CI/CD pipeline that would be on a cron job that would be running on a weekly basis to notify of you any expired domain maintainer of your packages, so you don't get affected by the automated updates of the packages that would be malicious, that would be by attacker, right? So there could be automation. So we thought about it. We made this little script that is available public for as an open source, and you can just put it in your CI/CD pipeline and run it on a cron job, and it would be detecting the vulnerable ones automatically. You can download it from here, you can copy forget from here, and then run these simple commands to test out a single package. You can run this command, and it would show you if the maintainers of that package are expired or not. And if you run this command by having all of your packages in package.txt, you would have the visibility of all of the packages that are vulnerable to this type of a vector or that are not, like this example. This is a tool by us, little script you could say, and you can just download it and start using it in your CI/CD pipeline if you are in a company, if you don't want to spend money on the big softwares to prevent this and stuff like that. Okay, and now talking about the research, the main part. Until now, we were introducing you to the vulnerability, we were introducing you to the supply chain, but the main part is here. The main effort that we done is here, not the automated script that we showed recently, but this. We thought about uh, what's the possibility that this type of a vulnerability is present in the bigger image. Like there are 2.1 million packages, as already mentioned, right? So we try to look for this uh, vulnerability in 2.1 million packages. It was a very hard task. We were disappointed at the first because 2.1 million packages are no games, right? 2.1 million packages are no game. So, but we tried to look into the maintainer email addresses, which were again triple of that number, obviously. But we used different servers, we used different methodologies, different customized script of ours, and try to look into the you could say maintainers or this attack vector for 2.1 million packages, which would be now discussed by Hassan from here. Hassan.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Danish, for getting so deep into supply chain attacks. Now, let me just share my screen and we'll go at the research. Okay, 1 second. Share screen. Is my screen visible, Danish?
Yes, it's perfect. Just the
It's
slide.
okay. It's okay. Can go on.
1 second. Okay, so as Danish explained, out of curiosity, we started exploring all of the NPM packages and research started. We initially started when we started the research, there was initially 2.1 million NPM packages at that time. So this is actually going to be a two-way process. In first process, we are going to find vulnerable package, and then from these emails, domain, and vulnerable package, we're going to attribute the impact out of this research. So in the first, we collected all of the NPM packages from the package manager. It was 2.1 million NPM packages. And then from these packages, we extracted the email addresses of maintainers' email addresses. As Danish has explained previously, that all the packages have maintainer emails within it. So of course, this process was a bit, time process taking, and it took us some parallel executions and some huge power of the VPS and stuff like this to extract all of these email addresses from these npm packages. So from these npm packages, we extracted 6.7 million email addresses. And this is just a graphical representation of research. As you can see, from the packages, we are extracting email addresses. And then from the email addresses, we are going to extract domains. Here you can see we have wrote down a little script that can extract an email address from the package. So basically, there are multiple approaches. You can either use npm CLI, you can either utilize their API. It's publicly available. You can use this to extract the required data. So from the email addresses that we initially identified, which was 6.7 million, we came up with this unique number. Those email addresses were very unique. So why these are unique? Because, for example, if you work for a company, let's say xyz.com, so there is a possibility that two employees with, let's say, A and B are working in the same company. So the domain, so when we sort out the domain, we are going to sort the domain, and it would be the shorter one. Again, just the whole process we can see here. Start with the package, extracting email addresses, then unique email addresses, and then it comes down to the domain. In the end, we can see we have 132K domains, and from these domains, we have to identify the expired domains. So there was a lot of scripts and a lot of parallel execution has been used. To identify expired domains, we have to first identify their expiry, for example, their timeline when they're going to expire. For this, we have used multiple whois utility and other tools within it. And special thanks to my colleague Yav for helping me and sorting out this problem. So in the end, we came up with the number 675 domains. So as you guys can see, we separate out. As I told you, this research is going to be a two-way process. In first process, we'll start with the packages, and then we'll go down to the domains, and then we will attribute those domains to the packages, and then from the packages we will attribute the impact out of it. So here you can see we have this number, which is 845. Why is this not working? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so okay, so here you can see 11, a number which is very short number. So basically, if you divide all of the email addresses that we initially identified with the unique email addresses, we will come up with the number 11. What does this mean? This means on an average, an npm package could have 11 email addresses associated. Here you can see this slide is really important. Okay, here you can see we just extracted 25 email addresses from the maintainers and npm packages. As you can see on the slide, we have email addresses on the right side and the number. So let's take an example of the first email, and from this we can see the first email address is being attributed or associated with 3,800 npm packages. This means this email has been using on contributing on just forking on working with the code with 3,800 npm packages. So what will happen if this email address has this domain and this domain gets expired? So if this domain gets expired and someone actually takes it over, so it's going to it's going to affect like 3,800 npm packages. And just keep looking at the numbers, like it's just a sorted numbers. Just keep going down, and you will see the impact, like how this can impact in real life scenario. So here's another figure. Here we can identify, for example, as I have told you previously, that one email addresses could be associated with 11 npm packages. So if we multiply this by 845, we'll come up with the number 9499, which means on an average we will have these number of vulnerable packages could be in the npm packages JS manager. But when we did the research, the final research, we started with the 2.1 million npm packages, and we came down to the number 2,800 something. I know from the perspective of this research, we can see it looks like the number was initially very huge. 2.1 million is a very huge number, but when it's come down to the result, we are just at 2,000. I mean, from the perspective of this research, we can see, okay, so there is no impact, but no, it's not like that. Let me show you in upcoming slide how much this research is going to impact. So this is a really fun slide. So here's the figures. You can see those vulnerable npm packages, which are actually 2,800. They are actually being dependent. They're actually being dependent on 257k repositories, which means those 257k repositories have that excuse me, have that JS package used in their package.log file or other files. So these are actually exposed, or you can say vulnerable user at that time. And when we started this presentation, Danish has made it clear that a package could have multiple dependents and multiple dependencies. When we looked for the express package, we came up with the number like 65,000. So if we just go and look for the express package, we can see the express package of 65,000 dependents. So when we did this research, these expired packages are actually being dependent on 93k dependent packages. So just imagine the impact right now. The last two figures, we can see the forks. Forks are really important here, because you can see there are 400k forks have been made of these packages, which means these are actual people, these are actual organizations which are forking that code into their own system, and they are actually being vulnerable to this. And the contributors, of course, whenever you contribute in some open source library, open source tool, you always clone that code into your system. So these are 100% vulnerable people. So again, this is huge. This is it's a small chunk of vulnerable packages, but the impact is really huge here. So let's move forward. So yeah, there is more impact here. So as I've previously explained, packages are actually depending on each have multiple dependents and multiple dependencies. So this is an ocean of vulnerable dependencies, and every package is actually going to have dependents, and or if one of those dependent is going to vulnerable, it's going to affect other packages as well. So yeah, here's the representation. Let me just quickly run it. As I was explaining, the express package. And here you can see how express package have multiple dependents. And if one of those is going to be, compromised or vulnerable, it's definitely going to affect the other one. Okay, what other things can happen? So we previously talked about the packages have maintainer email addresses. So what if those email address is being exposed on dark web, or maybe on Telegram channel, or maybe in a data dump? We know that dumps are happening all every time. We see it on on a daily basis, that this company has been compromised, that credential has been leaked somewhere on the dark web. So what happens if those email addresses have those credentials, and those credentials being leaked somewhere? What if those credentials being, used on the, package manager or GitHub? The risk would be, really huge. So that was it about the NPM research, and but we did a little extensive research on Ruby gems as well. This time we didn't went to at scale, but yeah, we collected all of the gems. At the time we have 160K gems. For this research, what we did, we went for the open source. We went to the GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, and what other sources we could have. We extracted gemfile.log. A gemfile.log is a file that have a reference of all of the gems which being used in Ruby on Rails project. So we collected all of these gems, and then we performed the research, and then we identified claimable vulnerable gems. Which is claimable means there was a vulnerability which was initially released. It called a dependency confusion. So we researched this vulnerability on open source Ruby gems. So to conduct this research, we created a vulnerable Ruby gem, which is, you can say, a backdoor gem, which will actually take over the initial package through the dependency confusion, and then it will be uploaded on the main excuse me main Ruby gem website. And then when someone will use that package, so instead of the original package, because it was actually being compromised, our package would be downloaded into their system, and it will give us a shell. So the hardest part of this research was, how do we identify when we compromise a system, which system it belongs to, which company it belongs to. So we use multiple data exploration techniques here. As you can see, we use burp collaborator with multiple commands like who am I, host name. We extracted whatever we can to get more recon on the system. So there's some stats of this research. 1,700 gems we have scanned, and we came up with the number 285, which means 285 gems were actually being vulnerable at that time, and it's a 16% of the chunk. So what if we go for 160K, which was initially all of the packages? So the impact, you can see, impact is going to be huge for this research as well. So yeah. Here's the script for the dependency confusion, which we wrote to just identify. You can provide your gemfile.log, or you can provide a single gem, and it will tell you if the gem is actually vulnerable for dependency confusion or not. There was another problem. We usually don't know which packages are actually expired in our code, which are actually outdated. So we wrote another script. It's called gem scanner. You can run it on your package file, and it will tell you which packages are outdated and which needs to be updated as well. Here's a simple execution of this tool. It's really helpful. You can just download from the link and explore it. So we talked too much about supply chain attacks. How can it happen in NPM and in Ruby on Rails? So let's talk about solutions now. How we can protect ourselves? How can we protect our systems, our laptops through these supply chain attacks? So so the NPM package manager and Ruby, they are actually both are taking serious action on this attacks. They recently implemented two-factor authentication over 100 NPM packages, but now they're actually being implementing more and more, and same goes for the gems. So this gives us some extra layer of security when someone, let's say, compromise some account. So there's MFA is still there, so he cannot get in. What other solutions? Other solutions are, whenever you work with the third-party code or an open source code, make sure you download the original code. How you can do that? Just validate its checksum. It's the best way you can use to just validate that open source library. And other than that, we have to stay proactive, because these attacks can happen at any time. We don't know. In the past, if we remember, we had an incident with the request module. of Python. So many people got confused which is original, which is not. It's very recent. You guys can just Google it about it, and it will be, you know, fun research as well. Other solutions are implement more softwares that can update your outdated gems, packages, modules in your SDLC cycle. For these kind of actions, there are multiple tools out there like Dependabot, GitHub Lab, security scanning, NPM audit, bundler audit. There's Brakeman, there's WASP, dependency check, and bundler integrity. And the tools that I have also shared in my slide, this can also be used to protect from such attacks. If you want to implement a product into your organization, then there are some professional products as well, like Snyk, or maybe there are some SBOM solutions as well are coming into the market that can be really helpful for the protection from supply chain attacks. This is another tool that can be used for a supply chain attack. It may help you to reduce the attack surface of these attacks. And also, I was reading about this. It has been, you know, made compulsory for the companies like SaaS or B2B businesses to have a SBOM solution must for their product, and it has been made by no other than Joe Biden. Yeah. So that's all it from my and Danish side. So if you guys have any questions about supply chain attacks or any other thing, please let us know.
Okay. So is there any
Yeah, I'm seeing some questions in the chat.
yeah, there are questions, but I think we would be narrating their questions, or is there any host right now with us?
Okay, you can start with sorry. Okay, you can start with yes. There is a Damien Marcini. What role do software developers and third-party vendors can play to mitigate the risk in supply chain attacks? Have you seen it?
Again, the solutions that we showed in the last slides. Obviously, every time you use a third-party code from anywhere from the world, you are not sure about the motives behind it. You are not sure about that. So you have to be vigilant. You have to have automations within your software development lifecycle to scan that code, to validate the checksum again, to make sure that you're actually downloading what you are intending to download or intending to use. You could have, if we are talking about third-party vendors, you could have risk assessment in the place to actually assess the risk of the third parties that you are dealing with. It's not only about libraries. It could be about the payment gateway that you are using. It could be about the third party shipping website that you are integrating with your website, for example. So every time there should be a third party risk assessment, and there should be some automations in your systems to validate the code that is coming from outside, and obviously look for the vulnerabilities into that. Do your own due diligence, obviously. Yeah.
Okay. There's another question. The next one is from Jan Richard. Okay, what is your usual DevSecOps strategy deployed to cover the maximum NPM attack surface? And what do you think of OWASP dependency check or Snyk, presence of false positive service covered? What tools do you deploy? Oh, that one is another question. So the first one is, what is your usual DevSecOps strategy deployed to cover the maximum NPM attack surface? And what do you think of OWASP dependency check or Snyk?
Yeah.
Can I
So, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So To cover the maximum attack surface, you can say for the supply chain attacks, first of all, you have to implement tools in your SDLC cycle. I have seen many people using Snake, dependable alerts, and they validate checksum as well. But these tools are not actually enough. For example, if there is a new exploit or new stuff in the market, then you have to have something in your code that actually limits your request from inside your system and into the system of the servers. And for this, you have to either have to use some open source tool. There are actually some open source tools available for this purpose as well. They can actually block or whitelist, or based on whitelist mechanism or based on blacklist mechanism, they can block some domains and IPs to if they are exploiting data within the system. So yeah, to cover this surface, you have to implement tools at any stage where you are actually using the third-party tool. And it's not just for the npm packages, it's also for the integrations and other connected stuff as well. Danish, if you have anything else for this question, yeah, please add.
Yeah, he or she asked about Avast dependency check. Yeah, Avast dependency check is a very good software composition analysis SCA tool, and it's probably a open source one. So yeah, you can use the mixture of Avast dependency check and Snake. I have heard very good reviews, and I have also tested it personally. Snake is a very good platform to use, but obviously, uh, uh, there are different attack vectors that are coming on a daily basis. For example, when this account takeover thing came out, it's not actually a vulnerability; it's an attack vector, right? If we think about it, account takeover. But account takeover was not getting dealt by anyone. It was not getting dealt by Snake. It was not getting dealt by Avast dependency check. But there was only the validation of checksum at that time. So for that type of step, you can be vigilant. You can look into the cybersecurity news on the daily basis. If you have a huge team within your company, someone can automate some scripts like in the case of this account takeover stuff. You can obviously use open source tools as well. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I hope he is satisfied. So, sorry. Next question. How can organization ensure that their supply chain partners are taking adequate security measures to protect against attacks? Oh, I missed the second part of the question, sorry. Jan Richard was also asking, what tools do you deploy and at what level of the chain usually to reduce NPM risk as much as possible? I don't know if Hassan can read the question. The second part of the question from Jan Richard. Have you seen it?
Yeah, so as previously explained, like for example, if you have a GitHub repository, first enable dependable alerts on it. It will literally help you to remediate new CVs and outdated packages. That could be the first step. In SDLC cycle, you can perform static code analysis. For example, a tool like Brakeman, it can identify static vulnerabilities in the code, and as well as the vulnerabilities in the packages as well. So this was about the code, and whenever you work with the third party or third-party vendors, there are two things. First thing first is you have to know which company you're going to work for. Okay, for example, there are procedures, there are policies. Their policy involves like you make a questionnaire and you send this questionnaire to the third party company, and then they will show you the security. But again, this all happens at the policy level, but deep inside we know security is something different. So we have to have involved multiple tools at every step, as I have explained and Danish has explained as well. Even if we have all of the tools like Snake, dependable alert, custom tools involved in the supply chain, we're still not secure because when that attack vector of account takeover came, like no tool can actually detect it. So maybe if you have an asset inventory, just add a custom tool that actually checks your domains and maybe gives you alert when one of your domains is about to get expired. So this was a definition of being staying vigilant. So I hope I was able to answer your question.
And yes,
okay, you
and
can talk.
and yeah, for this domain thing, for this account takeover thing, we also shared a script which is present in our GitHub repository. You can just fork it and start using it. You can run cron jobs on it. It's an open source. You don't have to pay anything, right? Other than that, there is a question that how can organization ensure that their supply chain partners are taking adequate security measures to protect against attacks. So, by the terms supply chain partners, I am assuming that he is talking about the commercial supply chain partners and not the dependencies, because we have also covered the dependencies already. But if we talk about the supply chain partners, it could be anything like payment gateways, as already mentioned. It could be, any website that you are working with, or maybe your help desk, maybe your mailbox, stuff like that. So there is a shared responsibility model. First of all, it's a it's a compliance thing that you have a shared cybersecurity model with them. That, for example, this part of the cybersecurity landscape is the responsibility of the party A, and this is the responsibility of the party A. For example, if you talk about AWS, Amazon Web Services, they mention that we provide sufficient measures to protect against, for example, DDoS and stuff like that. We have logging in place and stuff, but having a proper configuration is the responsibility of an end user. So if you are using AWS in your supply chain, it's also a part of supply chain if you are using AWS, right? But it's your responsibility to configure it perfectly. So there should be defined responsibility model. So which party is responsible for what, right? Other than that, obviously, there is a concept of third-party security assessments. Even before onboarding any third party, even before onboarding any supply chain partner, you should have security assessments with them. You can take a permission with them to have some security assessments run on their, for example, application and stuff. You can look into their compliances level. You can look into if they are compliant with, for example, SOC 2, for example, if they are in a payment industry, if they are PCI level 1, if they are, obligated to that, if they have ISO 27001 and stuff like that, to make sure that you are at least reducing the risk, at least they are compliant and you are reducing that risk on that level. Obviously, and then there would be some regular updates and patch management. Even if you are using an antivirus as your supply chain partner, for example, if you are not keeping it updated, it's not a responsibility of that partner or that third party, right? So yeah, uh, so there are a lot of stuff that is not related to tools and that is not technical, but still a part of these one-on-one engagements with the partners or with the third parties that you are working with. It involves policies, compliances, and these responsibility models, right?
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
there is, oh, sorry, there is another one from Damien Martini. Can we have example of company that have been already attacked because of the lack of security in NPM supply chain?
Danish can show you some examples, but it literally comes down to the confidentiality part, because we are still in process with some companies to have this remediated. Then if it
Yes, that's true. Yes, that's true. Okay. So we jump into the next question from yes, Jan Richard. Is there an NPM security checklist currently maintained if we need to do dynamic security testing on projects using NPM to ensure better coverage of requirements?
dynamic, yeah, for the dynamic I guess it's for the static. You can use npm audit, and it's for the static, and it checks for the you can say it check for the packages in the source code. But for the dynamic, you actually have to run that package, because dynamic analysis, it's all about running the stuff and then going through the stuff. For example, if the package have actually an API in it, then you have to integrate that package with your code, and then you have to test it.
Okay, great. Second
I'm also
question.
sharing.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
also sharing a GitHub repository which includes some resources for this individual who asked this question for the better learning and for better tool sets of ASP.js security. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Second part of the question. Do you have any Burp Suite plugins to recommend or share that give good results on this type of project?
Yeah, there are some good Burp plugins, but these are not for this specific case we talked about today, which was, account takeover in npm packages. There are some tools, I don't remember the name right now, but they are actually for to identify dependency confusion in JS packages. So basically what they do, they just look for the publicly exposed JS files in one of your a company that you're doing the pen test, and then when they have this file, they will extract the packages from it, just the package name, and then they will check the dependency confusion. So it's up to the dependency confusion. They don't check for account takeover.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's the end of the questions. Okay, so we would like to thank you two. We'd like to thank you for being present today, for sharing your research results, and also yes, it's much appreciated in the chat. You can see people are happy with that presentation. So thank you very much for sharing this with us. That's very insightful. And then, by the way, I'm going to share your LinkedIn so that people can just contact you when they will want to discuss concerning supply chain attacks and so on. So thank you very much for being here. I don't know, it was very impressive the way you concluded with 73 slides within 45 minutes. That's very impressive. Very impressive. That's a kind of art, really. So thank you very much for being here, and we hope to have you for the next sessions. Every year EOCON is happening, so next year is EOCON 2024, and we hope that you will also be part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, we'll share a link to our community also in your inbox so that you also join our community to stay with us.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
So this evening we have some this evening we will have, I will show you the next speakers. Oh, sorry. So we will take a break from now till 4 p.m. In time of Cameroon. So we will have the next speaker starting at 4 p.m. It will be Mr. Thomas Marquez. So Mr. Thomas Marquez is also going to present about an offensive tool, offensive tradecraft Nightwalker. That's the tool he created. So I hope all of you will be around for this next presentation. And then later on, we will have Shruti Kalsi from Ernst & Young in USA. talking about security challenges in generative AI. And then in the night, the last one will be a presentation from Mr. Abene Bete, the EOCON founder. So offensive security with the framework meter attack. So thanks everyone for being here, and then see you in 2 hours time. Bye-bye.